Evening, Helen. Okay, caught me having my cuppa today. So let's just check the mic. That's no good. Let's see how the audio goes now. Evening, Dan. Evening, Judith. Evening, Helen. Right. Wonders of modern technology. And we've got Kel on Podbean. Evening, Kel. Can you hear me okay? Evening, Caroline. Oh, that's wonderful, Kel. So Kel's joined us from Tokyo. I believe you're still in Tokyo, aren't you? Oh, it's hot and wet in Tokyo, apparently. Okay, so I thought I might as well get started on the dot today. Let me just turn off that, and I don't need that anymore. Yeah, so what I'd like to do is just explain where I am with all of the changes that I'm making, because I'm aware that for a lot of people it's become a little bit confusing. So it is trial and error with things like broadcasting from the mansion and broadcasting live. There's a bit of a problem in that the locations that I teach in, that is near Norman Park and Beckenham Place Park. Evening, Matt. Good to have you with us. They're all places with not particularly good signals. So I think the signal was okay when I was running the class on Tuesday, but there was a bit of a wind noise, so I need to get a little bit of kit to stop that from happening. Then as to the mansion, when I ran the Sunday class outdoors, the actual problem was the weather was a bit rubbish. So what I'm going to do is do what I normally do, which is refine it until we get it right. So I'll do something about the wind noise, and I will also try to find the best places for connectivity based on the technology that I've got, and broadcast from those when I'm running out classes outside. There's, as well as that, I also popped into the event schedule, so if you go to either bromleymindfulness.org.uk or meditationcourse.live and look for the calendar, so on meditationcourse.live you'll just have to scroll down to find the calendar, and it's in the menu, easy to find on the Bromley Mindfulness website. In there is an event schedule, which is a green diagram, and that's got all of the classes in it. I've also included the course the 6-week course that starts on the 8th of June. So that's this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. for 2 hours. The thing that you need to know about that is that there is, the thing you need to know about that is that there's 2 options. Well, there's actually 3. Option number 1 is you can come along and do the course in person. Option number 2 is you can do it all online. And option number 3, if you opt for the in-person option, from time to time you can do the online. So I'm aware that from time to time people have a difficulty accessing a class. The other thing about doing the online training is that Zoom is recorded, and so if you miss a class, I can send you to the recording and you can listen to that, so you don't actually miss anything out. Right, so that's a bit of, as well as that, there's one other thing that I'm not 100% sure about, but I must admit I'm tending towards Zoom, and that is on the Saturday mornings I'm unsure about whether to do a Zoom class or a YouTube class, and I think most of the time I'm going to do Zoom, and it'll all become obvious over time why that is. So that's the announcements. I'll probably put that into a newsletter for Saturday morning to update everybody. Oh, the other thing is, in the course of the next day or 2, I'm going to move everybody across from the Loving Awareness course group onto the meditation course group, and then there will only be one, and there will be one price, which will be $10 US, because my plan then is to market this to the world. So today, how to live on the edge of your comfort zone. So largely I've lived on the edge of my comfort zone for most of my life. And at one point it tipped over into emotional overwhelm. So I've seen the whole experience from my personal experience, of course. I've seen stress and anxiety grow to the point where I could no longer cope with going into work. You know, that's pretty, and in the modern economy, you know, that's a bit of a problem. And I came out the other side of that, and the thing that worked for me is what I'm teaching you. That's why I'm teaching it. And the thing that I learned is about the mind. So you'll have heard me say, for those of you that have been with us for a while, you'll have heard me say that the purpose of meditation is to become familiar with the mind. Now, that familiarity grows, and it grows into a deeper and deeper understanding of the mind. That, to the exclusion of anything else, is the single most valuable thing for people that live in the modern world, with all of the stresses and strains and worries and fears and doubts and threats and anxieties, all of the separation that we undergo, all of the constant barrage of information telling us we're separate, the belief system that believes we're separate, that we're expected to sign up to, all of these sort of things, they contradict what it is to be human, where human beings are social animals, fundamentally. And so not only are we under threat, and we have anxiety and we have stress, but as well as that, there's an element that you're on your own. And that is the source of suffering, essentially. This is the thing that resides in the minds of most people in the modern world. And that narrative, the narrative of threat and fear, is a very real thing. It is exactly what I say it is. It's a narrative. It's a script that we've learned. We'll have learned it from our environment and we will have absorbed it. And so even now, after, let's have a look, well, 11 years really, a pretty intensive meditation practice, every so often that script arises. And it's like a conveyor belt of problems. What my pre-meditation and mindfulness mind would have viewed as problems. And there's always another one. There's always another one. And so I've been doing a lot of yoga nidra recently without even attempting to do it. What's happened is that when I wake up in the night, I have a different sort of awareness now. And it's an awareness that allows me to be aware of the mind at a deeper level. I've read a little bit about the Buddhist concept of lucid dreaming and a little bit about yoga nidra. And I'm on this little journey. And what I've learned is that in that state of mind, probably because I've spent all of this time working with my mind and I'm familiar and comfortable with it, what's happened is that I'm able to see it more clearly. I've seen that the mind actually does live in the present moment, but the narrative doesn't. The narrative it's a static thing. It's I need this, I need that to be happy, I need this to stop me from suffering. There's a lot of wants and needs in there. That's a very deep thing. That's the chimp mind. The chimp mind that we share quite a lot with chimpanzees. There's been a lot of study into chimpanzee brains and minds, and their present moment is big. They are present moment creatures, and they can outperform human beings with some really quite complex tests, if those tests are all within a very short period of time. The Japanese scientist who has set up a testing station for some chimpanzees, and they get a banana if they get it right, and they go in and their various lights pop up in various shapes, and the chimp has to tap them, and they're as good if not better than human beings at that. And so that's all about the present moment. The mind is all about people and places and basic things, the need to eat, the need to drink, that kind of stuff. The narrative is a lot more complex. The narrative is actually our society. It's a cultural narrative. And what happens is we adopt it, we absorb it, and we reflect it. And that reflection is our awareness of our thoughts. So what this actually means for being able to live on your comfort zone is this. It's that as you continue with your practices, and as you continue with the most basic, the most simple, the most typical mindfulness practices, this mind reveals itself. You become aware of it. get to know it, you have an opportunity to get to know your own mind the way I'm getting to know mine. And I never would have believed any of this was possible. I haven't really read it anywhere, but when you read through the lines and you sift through the dogma, you know, the Buddhists have got a word for everything related with meditation. And so, you know, you're left with some Sanskrit word and you have to try to figure it out. But I expect that it's in there. Now, so here's the trick. The relationship with the mind is like a relationship with a difficult person, like a relationship with somebody who we need to get some beneficial outcome from. So the stress that our own mind can create for us is the same sort of stress that we can experience from a difficult neighbour. And so the stress management practices that I teach and the emotional regulation practices that I teach, they're what we're using both to encounter other people and overcome adversity and difficult situations and difficult people, but also to interact with our own mind when it's on the narrative of threat and when there's a conveyor belt of threats. So they're the same practices. What arises inside us and what we encounter externally that triggers us, that causes us to feel like we might be overwhelmed, to feel stressed, to feel anxious, to feel insecure, to feel worried, to feel alone, to feel lonely, all of that. That is the same set of practices that we use to deal with difficult people, to deal with external threats, you know, having difficult meetings, going to the doctors for your blood test, going into hospital, you know, anything like that. They're the same things. And those, so they're interchangeable when we're able to notice that our own mind can be the source of the same sort of difficulties that we get from other people. And the other thing to recognize is that they have this conveyor belt of threats, constantly popping up new threats into their mind, just like mine was back in 2009, 2010. So it's a process of literally getting to know the mind and being open to it. I strongly suggest don't go on to an imaginary plane when dealing with the mind. You don't need to. The thoughts, the basic thoughts, that's enough information. The basic emotions and the basic sense of how you feel, that's the information that we're designed to pick up. So, you know, to create some sort of concepts in the mind gets between you and it. We want a pure relationship with the mind. Okay, so which is one of the reasons I don't do things like inner child work and so on and so forth. It can actually get in the way as much as it can help you. But without a doubt, the more intimate you get with your own mind, the better your life will be. That's the secret to living on the edge of your comfort zone with the external world, is to live on the edge of your comfort zone with the internal world by familiarizing yourself with it and getting comfortable with it. So let's do some getting comfortable meditations. So if you just want to get comfortable, and I will start the meditations in the traditional way. And with this, what we're doing is allowing the present moment into our awareness, using the sound of the bell. And then all other sound, whatever sound there is. And then the breath, the first contact with the breath, noticing the breath. The rising and falling of the belly. And maybe the hint of the sensation of the breath in the nostrils. And this connection to the present moment, the experience of allowing ourselves to be aware of the present moment, draws us into it. It's like a funnel that brings us into what we call in meditation focused awareness. And then whatever phenomena there are, internal and external, arise gently and softly in our experience. Because the breath is a neutral experience, as are 99.99% of our experiences. They're coloured with a palette of fear and threat that we've learned, we'll have absorbed it during our lives. But they're actually neutral. The neutrality of the present moment can be found in the breath, as we can't distinguish between good and bad breaths. And so the practice, for a few moments, is a very light awareness of the breath. It's not a deeply focused, intensive saturation of the sensation of the breath. It's a very light touch on the breath. We're just noting that there is breath and that it rises and falls. And if our mind is very busy, we can repeat the ancient mantra taught by Buddha 2,500 years ago. On the in-breath, say in the mind rising. On the out-breath, we say in the mind falling. Rising, falling. We don't have to do that. Totally up to you. But either way, the awareness of the breath is as soft and light as the awareness of the sound of the bell earlier, or the awareness of whatever sounds there are. Like the gentle bubbling of a stream, the rain on canvas, the wind in the trees, that soft, gentle connection to the breath and the present moment, accompanied by the mantra if we wish, but not necessary. And just practice that for the next few minutes. Noticing the breath in the belly, rising and falling. On the in-breath, say in the mind rising, and on the out-breath, say in the mind falling. Rising, falling. Just practice that for the next few minutes. It's called following the breath. When the mind wanders away from the breath, need to experience that with compassion. We need to acknowledge it, recognize it, appreciate it for what it is, which is the pattern of the mind, wandering to something that is intensive. And bit by bit get more comfortable with that. Get comfortable with the wandering of the mind. Get comfortable with what arises in the mind. Treat yourself with compassion if meditation becomes frustrating. Make it a compassion practice. If there's anything annoying about your meditations, impatient about the meditations, frustrating, it's an opportunity to be compassionate with yourself, with that part of yourself that we all share. It's not really different to the mind of a kitten. Very simple wants and needs, and it's confused in this complicated modern world that it has yet to learn to live with. So we are as compassionate with ourselves as we can be with another being, because we share that inherent characteristic, the spark of life, and a lot of behaviour. See the behaviour of animals, and see the behaviour of humans. So you can make your frustrated, unsatisfactory, noisy mind meditation into a compassion practice by repeating in the mind, may I be well, may I be happy, may I find peace of mind. May I be well, may I be happy, may I find peace of mind. May I be well, may I be happy, may I find peace of mind. The great masters of meditation, such as Mingyur Rinpoche, refer to the mind as the monkey mind, not just because it's mischievous, but also because we can't look at a monkey without seeing the crossover with humanity, the expressions, the behaviour, the chattering, and the mischief, of course. So that's when we're dealing with the monkey mind, we're not really trying to silence it. We want a conversation. And it will speak to us in thoughts and emotions from the mind, carry to us our beliefs on this conveyor belt of thought, repetitive emotions, thoughts. They're not the mind itself. The mind is only in the present moment, really. This bubbles up from the store of beliefs about what is. When there's an inconsistency, there's discomfort. Where what we believe and what we experience are different, there's discomfort, unsatisfactoriness. And that's a message to us. We just let the mind bring this discomfort. That's its job. And our job is to get comfortable with it one tiny moment at a time. One thought at a time, one problem at a time, one little piece of unsatisfactoriness at the time. So here's more neutrality in the present moment, is bringing our attention to the space between the eyes. Just notice that space between the eyes. There's nothing to be done. There's no expectations. It's a neutral element of our experience, and we're just noticing it. And in the background is the breath. Rising and falling. belly rising, belly falling, and a light touch on the space between the eyes. Just aware of it. All of the internal and external phenomena bubbling up into our awareness, thoughts and emotions, sensory experiences, sounds, smells, tastes. The space between the eyes is like the rock in the stream. When we sit by the stream, we notice the rock, notice the stream passing. Bubbling past. Frustration arises, unsatisfactoriness, anything uncomfortable. May I be well? May I be happy? May I find peace of mind? And back to the awareness of the space between the eyes, sensation of the breath, thoughts, emotions, sense perceptions, passing. And again, noticing the sound of the bell. Passing through time. Okay, so that it is a bit of a long game, meditation, to be fair, but it's constant progress, albeit small. And when progress is slight, is small like this, we can only really see it by looking back. It's like you're climbing a mountain. We've all had this, a hill or a mountain, and you decided to climb to the top of it and it's wooded, which can be annoying because you can't see the view. So there you are, you're walking along woodland, and then at some point you'll come out above the trees, or there'll be a clearing, and you look down and you think, wow, look how far I've come. and all you've been doing is climbing, climbing, climbing. It doesn't seem, you don't seem to actually get anywhere. So it's only by looking back that you can see your progress. But that progress over time, there's so much to learn. There's so much that will arise in your experience if you leave the door open for your mind, and if you're constantly curious about practices that work for you, and you spend the time with your mind to get comfortable and familiar with it. And I know that the people that have really made the most of the lockdown as a meditative opportunity, and I've seen them make great progress. Really interesting how this has happened. Okay, so yeah, that's at the beginning. I think I need to do a few more of these. How to live on the edge of our comfort zone. There's the meditation perspective of it. Okay, yeah, so the other thing is, if you didn't get the explanation about the classes and so on, in an hour or two this video will have processed on YouTube and you'll be able to come back and listen to it. And as well as that, if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask me, email or WhatsApp. There's no such thing as a silly question. One of the things that I need to know is the holes in the information that I push out to people. I think I'm getting better at it, and I think it's largely in place, but for some people maybe they missed just a little bit of it, or I haven't explained myself satisfactorily. So please do ask. Just say to me, you know, what you're doing here and what's going to happen. But there'll be another newsletter on Saturday. If you're not on the newsletter, contact me and I'll add you. Okay, so that's it from me tonight. Bless you all. Have a fantastic evening. And we're at the mansion tomorrow at 11. What I'm going to do is email everybody who's booked in and check with them whether they want to do inside or outside. We can decide on the day. Okay, good night everyone. Take care. Bless you all. Yes, thanks Kel. Have a good time there in Tokyo. I noticed that somebody popped up and said there were some audio problems on Podbean. Did anybody else notice them during the class, or was that just that individual's connection? Night Helen, night Judith, night Dan, night Matt. See you at the mansion tomorrow. Take care. Okay.